Yo! God! I shot Steve! What are we gonna do?
We gotta punch as normal human beings.
Hopefully someone could come and help us.
Group 3.
Analysis to something new and something exciting. The topic we are presenting on today is the changes in a person, whether it be a junior, senior, or super senior here on campus. We are the Magnificent Team 3, and this is us interviewing each other to get a solid guide prepared before we went out and interviewed our candidates for this analysis. That's our roster, made up of 4 driven people, and let's go get them. So before we get started, I would just like to forecast where this is going to go now. We ended up interviewing 12 different people, and their thoughts were different, so we rounded up the most common ideas that were sprung by their individuals, and we put them into an analysis. So without further ado, here it is. The change in scenery. Yes, no doubt, the first thing that jumped out of these interviewers' mouth. It was, if someone from a small city to this big campus, it was very apparent, because they talked about how going from nowhere to here was a huge change, and kind of scary intuitively for them. Then there was the newcomings, as far as living situations, where we heard the following quote: "It was really tough meeting all of these new people, very different from home." A new way of living meant you had to interact with others' living habits, and this was out of the comfort zone of some of our interviewees. However, something that was mentioned was there was no outcasts. Yep, a lot more acceptance because different is better on a campus, and then there was a huge exposure to diversity, like the following new experiences. Change of scenery is an antecedent of personality change because it is one of the most crucial components of the way that you adapt and ultimately change your personality. This leads on to, and also affects, the social change that we will discuss later that we saw in our volunteers. They were figuring out their time management and self-reliance in order to climb up some social totem poles. The next subject that came up consistently in our interviews was personality change. To capture the main idea that was illustrated here, we said that many of the attributes that make up your personality are because of the people around you. Now that you are on a campus with so many different influences, your personality will feed off these influences and adapt accordingly. The main attributes that our candidates expressed were self-reliance and independence. And they were put into situations that called for them to be able to take care of the beginning blocks of Maslow's hierarchy. This forced them to come out of their shell and experience some of the activity the campus had to offer, because it was expected of them. Then, they had to learn time management due to all the new responsibilities that were thrown their way. They could not run and hide from these because it was now demanded of them to take steps forward in order to succeed. In order to really succeed, they had to learn how to cope with stress. Most of the time, the new experiences would not yield the perfect response or anywhere near the response they were looking for. Their workload was much heavier as well, and they needed to cope with all of this. Finally, they had to learn financials and how to budget on little income to be able to enjoy some of the following activities. Personality change leads to social change of an individual on this campus because once they are acclimated with changes of a new setup to their lives and have changed their personality, they will now start to fit into social norms, social standards.
Another very common response that our interviewees had for the ways they changed was socially. A huge way that they made a social change was their ability to get along from high school cliques. One of the most common things we heard was that the cliques they were in at high school weren't favorable for their needs and social standards. They really found that social protocols at a university really made someone stand out. Now you were expected to have answers to problems and be able to carry yourself in conversations with anyone you came across. Also, they found that new friends and new opportunities arose from being on campus. Being forced into situations that we have discussed earlier and navigating through these new situations, the interviewee said they really clung to people that were going through it as well, and the relationships stemmed new opportunities. Now, you didn't have to rely on your own friend group. Opportunities to meet and have from were right down the hall. Social change is managing these new relationships as well as old ones. The ability of meeting new people is higher because you're still unsure of how that person will react to certain situations. Yet, with you personally adapting to a new climate, the old friends are still going to expect the same personality as when they remember you. Balancing these is what becomes difficult.
Basketball in a big fancy stadium or in a small driveway? Yes.
A big fancy stadium.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Because you could fit more fans in there.
Oh, do you have a lot of fans?
Yes.
You believe in yourself?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
No, I meant to raise my hand.
Oh.
Both the personality change and social change now lead into our interviewers' experience of how the world turns. Now that they have adapted to the new environment and have started to experience new social norms, they are really starting to figure out that their actions are far more marginal than they were in the past. How the world turns, one of the most important changes that we got from analyzing all the data. This is the point that our volunteers really took us down the road of learning from their peers. They were able to really shape some of their own habits by just getting comfortable and seeing the standards of how their personality fit among their peers. This inevitably warped into their people skills. Real-life drama was one of the main things we heard as well, and we couldn't agree more. Not only have they broken out of the high school cliques that they were once in, they have finally figured out that their manipulation and heartbreaks and travesties and their triumph really shape how you view the world at a more wholesome manner. And the biggest point was, the world doesn't just rotate around me, and they had to grow up fast, with every decision leading to a more gratifying effect. They had to become an adult much quicker than they had expected. This is the point that personal development and competitive nature really go hand in hand, because the personal development of self-confidence and goal setting and networking makes for even more of a competitive nature. Everyone that is involved in this process is a beneficiary because of the synergy effect of these two. How the world turns stemmed from social change and personality change, and segued into the personal development of our volunteers. Once they had figured out the real-life drama and new opportunities, they were beginning to seize these and start to develop themselves within their atmosphere. Another huge change that we heard a lot about was the competitive nature around the campus of CMU. We came up with these three main headers for this subject matter that were near and dear to just about all of our interviewees, and that was forced competition, financial competition, and making yourself better. The forced competition was a byproduct of everyone here at Central striving to be the best at their particular field. So as a result of that, it is forcing everyone here to become so competitive in the classrooms, at their current jobs, and in career hunting. The next thing that was the makeup of this competitive nature was financial competition. As we heard from them, you learn to be a baller on a budget. Essentially, everyone here is stuck in a situation where there are many nights that friends expect you to go out and spend money. Since the normal job for a student has to be located near the campus, there is competition for these jobs and competition for making money everywhere you turn. This opened up the eyes of our interviewees and made another form of competition around the area of campus. Finally, this all made the individuals better as a result, due to the higher functionality they all had to be at, because if they weren't going above and beyond to try to be competitive in the classrooms or to try to get a job, they could see their peers doing it and being more successful. The way this changed from the first step on campus and the person that we interviewed is today was all wrapped up was the higher education that they have received while going through all of these situations that we have discussed. Emotionally, physically, and mentally, they have received a higher education because of their time here at CMU. They were able to get involved with the humanitarian events that they never thought were possible. They were able to further their knowledge based to limits that exceeded even their wildest dreams, and they were able to, at the end, be able to tell themselves as a freshman with the best process that they should take to graduate with the best experience possible. After all of the mentioned core values that we understood after analyzing the data, this was the outcome and the major change of all our interviewees.